Hello, my geeslings. This is episode 4 of Robinson's podcast, also known to me as my podcast. This is the first episode that I'm publishing. I think I'd recorded some other ones that is strength oriented. And ironically, I'm recording this introduction right after eating a pint of enlightened cookie dough ice cream for breakfast. And it was not that bad, even though it was diet ice cream, but it was dyed blue, which would typically, I think, be appealing to me, but because it was diet ice cream, it just felt kind of insulting. But anyway, this podcast is with Abigail Biddle, who I met in New York when I was living there and going to Columbia. She is really strong. She's a bodybuilder, but she's also a law student at Duke University. So in our podcast, we talk about Utsi the Iceman, which is also the name of her dog, minus the Iceman part. We talk about skiing, and then we talk a lot about bodybuilding and her experience as a bodybuilder. So we talk about some of the travails of cutting weight as a bodybuilder, talk about body image issues, which not just bodybuilders, but obviously all sorts of people struggle with. How weightlifting can help sexual assault survivors, which is something that she's particularly interested in. We talk about Abigail's 5 concussions, how she got Boulder shoulders, which is hard for anyone to get, but particularly women. We talk about her macros. So if you don't know what macros are, they are the macronutrients, fat, carbohydrate, and protein, which bodybuilders track as they're trying to alter their body composition. We talk about her macros and how her training changes during periods of weight gain and loss, not eating Taco Bell before a cross-country flight, air fryer hacks, and all sorts of things. You should really check out her Instagram. It's fit_as_a Biddle, and that's Biddle, just to see how strong and impressive she is before you hear us talk. But this was a really fun episode for me to record, and I hope it's not the last one we do together, and I hope you enjoy it. So first things first, we met at the dog in Central Park a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, we did.
And your dog's name is Utsi?
Yes, it's Utsi.
Utsi. And is that from, I feel like I remember there was a caveman or something by that name.
So his name is technically Uts, and he's named after the oldest wet mummy ever found in the Utzidal Alps on the border of Austria and Italy. But Utsi's cuter, so we call him Utsi.
Utsi is cuter.
Yeah.
I feel like didn't they, now that you mentioned he was found in the Alps, do you know a lot about him?
I don't know, I'm not in crazy amount of detail, but I know quite a bit, yeah.
Okay, is he the person who they were able to look at his stomach and
see what
do
his
X-rays?
Last meal was? Yeah, and it turns out that he was murdered.
He was being chased probably, and he went up there and died with bread in his stomach and some other things. I thought that was really neat.
And he was found about 30 years ago. And actually, my dad this past winter, we're big skiers. And my dad went skiing in Italy this winter, and he went to the Utsi Museum. So he got to see Utsi, and he brought back all these magnets and trinkets and that kind of stuff. So it was pretty cool.
Nice. Where do you ski in the U.S.?
So, actually, the past 2 winters, I was an alpine ski racing coach in New Hampshire. at a really small mountain called Ragged Mountain. And I was a U16, U18, U21 coach. So my kids were between the ages of like 14 and 18. We did have one 19-year-old. But I grew up skiing in Vermont at Sugarbush, as well as a small mountain called Catamount, which is on the border of, I think, New York and Massachusetts. Yeah.
Okay. I grew up skiing once a year, but at Alta in Salt
Yeah,
Lake City, if you've ever
I
been there.
love Alta. We were supposed to go to Alta this year. We usually go every year for closing weekend, and we stay at the Alta Lodge.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So were you a competitive skier then
Yeah,
too?
so I started racing when I was about 4 years old. I have two older sisters, and one of them is 4 years older than me, and the other one is 6 years older than me. And when I was 4 years old, I was still in ski school, and I was skiing with 12-year-olds in ski school because I was a very good skier. And the issue was that because I was so little and I was really embarrassed about being so much younger than everyone else in my group, I actually would pee my pants like every day because I was too embarrassed to say that I had to go to the bathroom. And so I got kicked out of ski school because they were like, we can't deal with this. And my sisters were racing in the interclub program, so not super high stakes, more it's like a club team basically. And I was able to hop in there, and my dad would, spend more time with me because I was the only 4-year-old. And that's how I started racing. And I raced through high school, but I went to boarding school for high school, not like a ski academy. To be honest, it's interesting looking back on my athletic career in high school as well as college, because I played lacrosse my freshman year in college. And at that time, even my freshman year in college, as well as high school, I wasn't really thinking about being the best athlete I could be. I was more thinking about, how do I not embarrass myself? I was very, very
I had that
self-conscious.
experience.
Yeah. I was so self-conscious, and I had so much anxiety, both social anxiety and performance anxiety, that I was so worried about making a fool of myself. And it wasn't until, honestly, I started doing CrossFit probably at the age of 19, 20, that I really started to tap into my competitiveness.
Okay. So, well, this brings us to weightlifting. So when we met, you stopped me because I was wearing my rucksack.
Yes.
So I ruck every morning with a heavy weighted pack, and you asked me about it, and then I kept on walking, and then I turned around, and hold on a second. You can go to let's see. What is your Instagram?
Oh, it's fit_as_A Biddle.
Yes. So I'm looking at a post from 3 weeks ago, in which you're doing like a neutral grip pull down at the lat machine and flexing some super cut delts and traps.
Yeah.
And so I was walking up that hill, and then I turned around and I saw that you had these super capped delts, which is what bodybuilders call Boulder shoulders. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I asked you if you trained, and you told me you're a bodybuilder. So you just had a competition recently?
Yeah, actually, when I met you, I had my show, I think, like 3 days before. And that was my first bodybuilding show. And I'm currently 15 days out from my second bodybuilding show.
Yeah, so I saw that post. Did you post about that today? I think you said things are going to be changing every day and getting better.
Yeah.
So what's that like for you right now, being 15 days out and probably low on calories and
Yeah.
food?
Yeah. Surprisingly, the past few days have not been horrible. Um, but there's definitely some brain fog. A lot of times I want to say something and it doesn't exit my mouth the way that I wanted it to. And, you know, I've had a mental breakdown probably like every 3 days for just like 5 minutes. And by mental breakdown, I really mean just like all of a sudden, I just want to cry. And it's not for a particular reason. I'm just tired because of the training, the cardio. Right now, I'm having a really hard time sleeping through the night. So I can fall asleep really easily, but my body's been waking up at 5 a.m. every morning. And part of that is because I'm at such a low body fat percentage. So right now,
Hmm.
I'm around like 6% body fat.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Did you get a DEXA scan?
No,
Or how do you measure that?
I use the in-body machine just at the,
Okay.
because right now I work as a personal trainer at a club downtown, and we have one of those machines. So it's not 100% accurate by any means. However, I have data from before I started cutting and now, and there's a very big difference.
Uh-huh.
So as a woman, being like, I can feel the difference once you're at like sub 12% body fat. I mean, like, I really started to realize it when I sat down on the subway and I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And I realized it's because,
Your sit bones touching
yep,
the bench?
yep. And
Mhm.
my feet get really tired because the fat pads on the bottom of my feet don't exist anymore.
Ooh. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, yeah, it's something I never thought
Huh.
of. Um, but
Oh, that's
but
crazy.
overall, I'm actually feeling pretty good this week compared to last week, because last week I was really hungry and I was dealing with some bloating and I didn't look the way I wanted to look being 20 days out from my show. And honestly, it was really like 2 days ago where I feel like my body just showed up, you know.
Mhm.
So
I really wish that I could share the screen. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that, but I really encourage people to go look at your Instagram, uh, because and this is, I mean, it's sort of weird to say because we're not supposed to objectify other people's bodies, but
mhm.
it's kind of part of the
Yeah,
sport. But you've clearly put so much work into your body and you're so lean. And I know how extraordinarily difficult it is to get that lean.
yeah.
Uh, a lot of people, well, I think in general, people would assume that the toughest part about bodybuilding is the training. But going to the gym is the fun part. I mean, people
Mhm.
wouldn't be bodybuilding if they didn't like that, but it's cutting that is so absolutely miserable.
Mhm. Yeah.
But we can get back to cutting more later. But for now, I'm curious why bodybuilding and why competing
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
bodybuilding.
So, it's kind of a strange story. I was an athlete in college, really my whole life.
So lacrosse as a
Yeah,
freshman.
so I played lacrosse my freshman year. I went to a really small college called Pitzer College in Claremont, California. It's one of the Claremont colleges. So Pitzer does their sports with Pomona. So I played lacrosse for the Pomona Pitzer women's lacrosse team. And my freshman year, I got my fifth concussion. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so after that, no more lacrosse. And I wasn't really active. I mean, I would go to the gym maybe like once or twice a week. And I would be one of those people taking my little dumbbells and a mat and going into the corner and doing some HIIT workout that I saw on Instagram or something like that. And it wasn't until, let me see, my junior spring my junior spring in college, I had just gone through a breakup that was really hard for me, and I had mono. So those two things together, my body just deteriorated. And I was looking at myself and I was like, oh my God, I felt so uncomfortable in my body. And that's something that I've struggled with for a long time. I mean, if you do go on my Instagram page, the first thing in my bio is sexual assault survivor. And that's something that I'm very open about. I'm very open about the fact that I was assaulted when I was 15 in high school. And since then, I've struggled with feeling present in my body and feeling ownership of my body. But it wasn't really until my junior year of college when I was depressed and dealing with an illness that those feelings of being out of control of my body and not feeling present in my body, they really were overwhelming. And
what are you referring to in particular when you say, let's say, like, dissociating maybe from your body? Like, what is it that you see in your body that you just aren't owning? Like being heavier than you want to be, or not seeing the muscles you want to see?
It wasn't at all about the way that I looked. It was the way that I felt. Like, I would just look at myself and I felt like my body wasn't mine. It's a really, really hard feeling to explain, but
yeah, I can understand, even though I haven't been in that position, but how sexual assault might make you look at your body in that way, try to distance yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
From
You try to detach yourself almost.
Yeah. I just can't empathize with the feeling. I guess I look in the mirror and I might really dislike my body, and I think, oh, I don't feel like it represents who I am, but I still realize that it's mine in a way.
Right.
But I understand how you it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I mean, the closest word to explain it would be dissociation. And I worked at my school gym as a front desk person. And at the time, there was a student who was a certified personal trainer who was doing free sessions. And so I actually started training with him, and he taught me how to lift. He taught me how to barbell back squat. He first taught me how to trap bar deadlift, and then we moved to a normal barbell. Taught me how to bench, and I fell in love with it.
And I'm gonna try to guess what you're gonna say, because it's just occurring to me now, and it seems brilliant. Maybe that one way of overcoming this dissociation is by mastering your body, in a sense, and starting to build it from the ground up. And by making those changes yourself, you can gain ownership over it.
100%.
Okay, that's really nice.
At first, it wasn't about the way that my body looked. It was about the way that it felt. You know, when I was squatting 135 pounds back then, I remember when I first squatted 135 pounds, which is the bar and 45-pound plates. I remember the first time I squatted it for 4 reps. I felt every muscle I was using. And it was that feeling that made me, that brought me back into my body.
Grounding.
Exactly. Yeah. So at first, it was not at all about aesthetics. It was all strength. I didn't really care about how I looked. I just wanted to lift more. I wanted to lift heavier. And that's how I got into CrossFit, because I was into lifting. And then I saw the CrossFit documentaries on Netflix. And I was like, oh my God, these women like Tia Claire Toomey, Sarah Sigmund's daughter, Katrin David's daughter, they're jacked and they're beautiful and they're moving an insane amount of weight. And I looked at them and how they move their bodies through the gymnastics movement and the gymnastics movements and the Olympic lifts. And I was like, I want to learn how to do that. And so that's how I got into CrossFit, which still was strength training. And through CrossFit, I started learning more about how my body moved. I learned all of these movements. I started lifting really heavy and feeling really confident with a 200-pound barbell on my back. And it wasn't until I had been doing that for a few months when I actually started to seek out a coach, because I kind of plateaued my lifts. You know, you have beginner gains and you get strong really fast, and then you kind of plateau unless something changes. And I thought that I was eating really well at the time. Turns out I wasn't. I was not.
What were you eating then?
Well, I was eating a lot of fat and I wasn't eating a lot of carbs. I was eating quite a bit of protein, but not enough. But I remember growing up, everyone saying bread makes you fat, carbs are bad, don't eat too much pasta. So I was trying to stay away from those things. And I was like having like 4 protein shakes a day with tablespoons of peanut butter because I thought that was the way to do it. And I found my coach, Zoe Panzerino, on Instagram, actually. And she is an IFBB bikini pro bodybuilder. And I started working with her now 3 years ago, and she is still my coach today. And she's the reason why I'm now competing in bodybuilding, because at first it was all about strength. So for me, I was considered a lifestyle client because I didn't care about how I looked. I mean, it was nice.
And you weren't competing.
Exactly. And I wasn't competing. And it was nice to see muscles, but I mean, I did not look at all like how I look now. But 3 years ago, Zoe she said to me, she said, you should really think about competing. I think you have the right body for it, and you have the right mentality and relationship with food. And at the time I was like, absolutely not. I am not stepping on stage in heels in a bikini with like, I had never had my makeup or hair done except for my senior prom. Like, that's not me at all. So for 2.5 years, I was like, absolutely not. And then I got bored. And I was like, my body was tired from CrossFit. I just would show up to the gym every day, and I felt like I didn't have something I was competing for anymore. I love doing a CrossFit WOD when there's someone behind me doing burpees faster than me, because I look at them and I'm like, I want to do burpees that fast, or I want to beat you. But I can't go to the gym by myself and get that same workout, because I don't have that person chasing me behind me. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, you know what, screw it. Let's do a show. Let's see how it goes. So I started my prep for my May show. I started the training for my prep. So not cutting yet, but
more bodybuilding style.
Exactly.
Training.
More bodybuilding style training in September. And part of that was also just because I had moved to New York City from New Hampshire, and I can't afford a CrossFit gym membership in New York City. And I worked as a personal trainer. So I had in a more conventional gym. So I had access to that gym, and I was like, you know what? might as well do it.
Okay. So, all right, two things I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
First, how did you get 5 concussions?
Oh, God.
Skiing?
No, actually, I don't think I've had any from skiing. So I did a lot of sports growing up. So I had my first ever was from horseback riding. But I think total I had 2 from horseback riding. One from martial arts, because I did Shotokan karate for like 12 years. So I'm a
Okay.
secondary black belt in Shotokan karate. And I also did some Brazilian jiu-jitsu and kickboxing when I was younger. One of them was being really stupid and like opening a door on my face or something when I was in middle school. And then my last one was in college. It was the worst concussion I've ever had. And I was at a party and Mr. Brightside started playing and everybody started like mosh pitting and I got elbowed in the head.
Oof.
It was really bad. I blacked out. The next morning I was throwing up and I thought that I was just hungover because, college kid. And then 3 days later I was still throwing up and I was like, I don't think this is a hangover. And that was the worst one. I missed like my last month and a half of my freshman year and I had to finish my classes over the summer.
So I'm just curious about this because I've had one concussion and it was somewhat similar to your experience. Well, the last thing I was a freshman in high school and I was getting drunk for the first time with a friend of mine. And the last thing I remember is falling face first and like hitting my head on his table.
Yeah.
And then I went to the hospital later on after like their parents found us like both passed out. But it was just the strangest week after that because I couldn't focus on anything. So I played soccer and I couldn't run and dribble the ball at the same time.
Yeah.
There were just all sorts of things like that. And even still to this day, I feel like sensations are a little bit different than they used to be.
Yeah.
That in particular, I'm wondering if you have that.
So for me, it's not necessarily sensations, but my memory has definitely been impacted. And after my last concussion, I actually had to deal with migraines, chronic migraines, for about 2.5 years. And they would be set off by loud noises, stress. I would have to carry a case of earplugs and a sleeping eye mask everywhere with me in case I felt a migraine coming on. And I would have to take my medication and then just try to find a quiet corner and ride it out, basically. Luckily, I haven't had a migraine in about 2 years now. So I know that my brain has healed a little bit, but my memory is not as good as it used to be. It's better now. I used to forget everything. And my attention is not great either. So like, it's great that, I feel better than I did, but there were times when I was in high school, even when I would get so frustrated with myself because I would tell someone the same story like 4 times. And they'd be like, Abigail, I've heard this so many times. I'd be like, what are you talking about? I've never told anyone this. And I would just get really frustrated with myself. So
yeah, that's rough. I remember feeling very upset and frustrated and worried that during that week, things were never going to go back to normal, and that I was going to be stuck in this weird twilight dimension.
That never even occurred to me, like during those times. Thank God, or else I would have had a panic attack. It was more just like, nope, lights off, listen to books on tape, and I don't even know, just take it day by day.
So something though another thing you just mentioned, and I'm keeping track of the tangents that I want to go on, but you mentioned sleep mask.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw on some of your Instagram stories that you have the same sleep mask I have, which is like the Manta Deluxe sleep mask. And I'm going to plug that thing right now.
100%.
Get that. So why did you get that for your concussions?
No, well, no, I didn't get it for my concussions. So
this one in particular.
Yeah, this one in particular I got because I really like how I can open my eyes and it's black
in the
mask and it's still blackout, but I've actually owned every iteration of the Manta sleep mask. I actually have the OG one in my bedroom because I travel with that one. It's not great, but I mean, compared to the one that they make now, because it's from like 4 years ago or something. But it's also
I have the other one
too. It's the only one that I've used that is full blackout, because I have this like pronounced bump on my nose. So if it doesn't have those, eye cups, I then get the peek through of light right here. And I hate that. It drives me crazy. So
I need to sleep in pitch black environments, and I moved to New York, and my apartment had like wall to seat or floor to ceiling windows in the bedroom, and I just couldn't sleep, so I had to get one. But it's perfect because now like traveling is so much easier. So Manta Deluxe sleep mask.
Oh yeah, it's expensive, 100% worth the money. Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to go back to was CrossFit has, I think, a pretty bad reputation among a lot of people. And it's probably justified to some extent by bad gyms, but it mainly revolves around claims of people getting injured too much because it's too much work. But so you haven't been doing CrossFit for, I don't know, 9 months now. But how do you feel about it at this point? Still very positively?
Yeah, I mean, I love CrossFit. I really do. And the reason why, in my opinion, the reason why CrossFit has a bad rep, especially when you run into someone who has been injured doing CrossFit, it's because the demand for coaches and for boxes exploded in the US. As soon as those documentaries came out, you started seeing CrossFit everywhere, and it's because everybody wanted to do it. So when you have this really high level of demand for something, like, it's a business, CrossFit is going to do its best to meet that demand. However, the thing about CrossFit is that you need quality coaches. And to be a quality coach, you need experience. You can't rush experience. So what happened was you have these boxes that are opening up with coaches that maybe they're certified personal trainers, maybe they've been doing traditional weightlifting or even just Olympic weightlifting or even just gymnastics movements, but they haven't been doing them all combined. So when you have a workout that is a combination of Olympic lifts and gymnastics movements, and a coach that doesn't know how to do all of those things or how to teach all of those things with progressions as well as regressions for each individual athlete, we're going to call all of these CrossFitters athletes, then that's where injuries happen. People who are injured from CrossFit most of the time are not in great shape. And that's okay. You should be able to walk into a CrossFit box, a gym, a fitness center of any sort with any experience level and be able to have access to resources that are going to help you achieve whatever goals you want to, whether that's to become more fit, lose weight, X, Y, and Z. But if a CrossFit box doesn't have a coach that can cater to a beginner, then they shouldn't be taking those clients. But they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, down the line in my life, it's very plausible that I'll return to CrossFit in some capacity, because there are still things that I need to learn how to do. I need to learn how to link muscle ups. I've gotten maybe like 5 in my life, bar muscle ups. And then I just couldn't do it again, because, the body is a weird thing. There are things that I want to improve. I want to improve my clean and jerk. I want to improve my snatch. And I love how I can get a nice, really hard workout in like 20 minutes with a CrossFit WOD, which is something that I can't get in my bodybuilding style training. But also right now I have time to spend 2.5 hours in the gym.
So WODs, like a CrossFit WOD, might just be 20 minutes?
Oh yeah, there are CrossFit WODs that are 8 minutes. Like,
okay, I've never done a CrossFit workout before.
I would say the normal CrossFit WOD is between like 8 and 20 minutes. And then you have the longer WODs like a Murph or a Hero WOD, something like that. And the Murph, my last time I did the Murph, my time was like 45 minutes and 48 seconds, something like that. And that's long.
So when people are doing the 8-minute WODs, are they structuring their workout just with a warm up, the WOD, and then a cool down, and that's it for the day?
No, so usually there's a warm up and then there's a strength component. So let's say it'll be a snatch day. So you're working on your snatch, whether it's a power snatch or a squat snatch, and you do that for the first half. And then you'll do a WOD. And usually if you're snatching for your strength component, a snatch will be in the WOD. So an example would be you're working on your power snatch and you're working up to a heavy triple. So you're cycling the barbell 3 snatches, going as, working your way up to a heavier weight for you. Let's say for me, that's 100 pounds. And then the 8-minute WOD might be an 8-minute AMRAP of 5 snatches at 65 pounds and 10 burpees over the barbell. And so you do that as many times as you can in 8 minutes. It's like an 8-minute sprint almost, but again, you still have 8 whole minutes. And 8 minutes, if you're snatching and doing burpees, can feel like a lot longer than 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after that, you would do the cool down.
Okay. And then, so when you transitioned from CrossFit to bodybuilding to the prep, what were the biggest changes in training then?
So when I was...
You probably went from a lot of compound lifts and body weight movements, I'm guessing, in these circuits. Did you start using more machines?
A lot more machines. So towards the end of me doing CrossFit, I was doing CrossFit about 3 to 4 days a week, and then 1 to 2 accessory lifts a week. And those were structured by my coach, partly because at that time, my body was just getting tired from CrossFit. Like, it's hard on your body. And I also had goals to PR a deadlift, PR my back squat. And so in order to hit those, I wanted to make sure I was doing everything I could to progress, and that's where accessory lifts come in. So towards the end of me doing CrossFit, I was really only doing it 3 or 4 times a week. But then once I decided I was going to do a bodybuilding show, my training changed quite a bit. 5 days of weightlifting. I was not doing cardio at that time. And it was more of a bodybuilding style split. So it was like, what? Push, pull, legs, shoulders and arms, and then a full body day. And part of that is because right now you can see that I have a very developed upper body for a woman. At the time, I did not. At the time, my upper body strength was horrible compared to my lower body strength. And part of that is because I'm a skier. So my squat and deadlift have always been great. I'm very quad dominant. So I've always had tree trunk thighs. But that's what my bodybuilding style split was. And it was created by my coach.
So looking through your Instagram, you have a few features that I think really stand out. And one is the Boulder shoulders, the delts, the capped delts. Another, people were commenting a lot on your abs. And then there was another picture, another post that was like a before and after of your glutes. So one part of bodybuilding that differs from CrossFit, I'm guessing, but certainly powerlifting, is that you're not training certain areas just for aesthetics. You might have a lagging body part that you need to train to develop strength, but for bodybuilding, you're doing that for hypertrophy and to create symmetry. So did you spend a lot of time working on those 3 particular features, or did they just arise naturally in your training?
So my glutes just came naturally through my training. My glutes,
so that means big butt, which a lot of lifestyle clients really want.
That was not planned at all. And it happened through CrossFit, partly because of so many squats, wall balls, those kinds of
wall balls.
Wall balls are like a 14-pound large medicine ball, and you do a squat, and then you throw it up to a line on the wall, and then
and it bounces.
Well, when it comes down, you catch it, and you come down in the squat, and you go up. And my glutes, literally, that was never a plan. But I also, when growing up, I had no butt. I had a flat butt, and I used to have huge boobs. So I used to be a size 30 rib cage, triple D cup size. So, which is hilarious now because I don't even wear bras. So part of that is because of training.
How did that happen?
So part of that's because of training. And then also, I accredit it to going off of the hormonal birth control pill.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that, which is really interesting, that could be completely false, but that's when I noticed the difference, was going off the hormonal birth control pill. But glutes were just showed up. Shoulders, those I work really hard on. And it's also now my favorite body part to train, partly because not a lot of women have developed shoulders. And I think it looks really cool when,
I think it looks really cool too.
It makes me feel strong, and it makes me feel like I take up space, which is something that I felt really uncomfortable doing when I was younger. So
Also, if you're in the gym or you wear tank tops, they're one of those muscles that make you look like you lift
yeah,
weights.
exactly. They make you look like a
Hmm.
badass. Uh,
Hmm.
and then my abs, I
Well, shoulders first.
oh,
I
okay.
want to go back
Go.
to the
Okay, we can
shoulders.
talk about shoulders
So,
all day.
okay, so how do you train shoulders just specifically on that one day that you said is arms and shoulders day, or
No, so I also do shoulders on push and pull days. So an example is today was a
okay,
push day, and I still did single arm cable lateral raises with a 3-second eccentric movement.
okay. So you're doing shoulders 3 days a
Pretty
week,
much, yeah.
and in like the 12 to 25 rep range, or
Between 10 and 20.
okay,
Except for when on my shoulders and arms day, oh, my coach programmed a run the rack of lateral raises. And so I start at 25-pound dumbbells and I do 6 reps of lateral raises at 25 pounds, 22.5 pounds, 20 pounds, and then I do 8 to 10 reps, 17.5 pounds, 15 pounds, 12.5
are you
pounds.
resting between sets?
This is all one set.
Okay,
And then I do
okay, great.
like,
That sounds painful
yeah,
in a nice
and well,
way.
and then I do 12 reps with what, or 10 to 12 reps, 10 pounds, 7.5 pounds, 5 pounds. And I will tell you, a 5-pound dumbbell never felt so heavy. Because that's one set, and then I rest 2 minutes and I do it again.
Oh wow,
So I do that one
twice.
twice.
That's your finisher, right?
No,
Your no?
it's not even
Oh
the
my gosh.
finisher. Yeah, but
Wow.
I love lateral raises. Those are my favorite. Also
So
because
those are that's what I was going to ask. Those are your favorite shoulder
those are my favorite
exercise?
shoulder exercise, especially because most people do them incorrectly. Most people,
Tell me
so
more.
most people will have their arms completely straight. And
Right.
I know if people are listening to this, they can't see this, but
Uh-huh.
then they'll just lift up their arm to their side like 90 degrees, like this. But if you're doing that, and also if your palms are facing down, you're not actually getting the whole shoulder head. You're getting more of your back right back here. So if you have a little
Mm.
bend in your elbow, and then you think instead of bringing the dumbbell up, you think about pushing your elbows away from you and then finishing with your pinky facing the sky. That's how you get really that whole shoulder head there.
Huh. That's good to
Yeah,
know.
so every time I see somebody in the gym doing a lateral raise incorrectly, and usually it's like a really jacked dude who's grunting every rep or he's using his body to create momentum, I kind of giggle to myself because I'm like, huh,
Mhm.
you don't know what you're doing, which is fine if you don't know what you're doing, because that's why we have fitness professionals and coaches to help teach you. But it's when people refuse that help that, especially from a woman, that I find funny because, I've been in the gym while I work as a personal trainer, and I've told someone like, hey, you're going to hurt yourself doing this, or like you're gonna have a herniated disc if you keep deadlifting with that spinal movement. And they'll be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I just walk away because,
Mm.
you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Okay, so now to the abs.
Yeah. So those didn't show up until I was like sub 8% body fat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those are, oh my
It's
gosh.
funny how everybody's so different. I can get up to like 18% and I still have
Yeah, and
abs
that's genetic
because I just
though.
don't put on my fat
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's partly genetic, and you probably have a more pronounced transverse abdominis. I mean, you see like Annie Thoris' daughter, who's a CrossFit athlete, who always will have like this. It's like a turtle shell abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
trunk, like a tree trunk. It's awesome, but that's her those are her genetics. I do not have those genetics. And I carry a lot of my body fat in my midsection, and that's very normal for women, especially my lower abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have, like, I didn't even know it was possible for me to have abs until this prep.
Really?
Yeah.
So you hadn't had them before in
Never.
life? That is so crazy because your abs are so intense.
I know.
That's cool.
So like it just goes to show that there is muscle under there, but it takes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of work to get there. And it's hard with some of the clients that I've worked with before, because so I work at a gym that's close to NYU. So I've trained a lot of NYU students, and a lot of young women, they're like, "Oh, I want some abs for the summer. How do I get those? I just need to do core workouts, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, girl, I've been doing core workouts for a really long time, and I didn't get abs until I started tracking my macros and being in a caloric deficit for like 14 weeks."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it is. It's funny how that works. Like, I mean, my dad was just asking me the other day how he could get rid of his love
yeah.
handles, and the answer people want is that they just have to go to a gym 3 days a week. But the reality is that whatever percentage I throw out is going to be
Yeah.
arbitrary, but 90% of it is or more is it's all
It's all
diet, and that's
diet.
just the worst
I know.
part. So I'm guessing. So you started prep then in September,
Well, I started
and
training for
right,
prep in
right.
September. Yeah.
Start, and I'm guessing that means you were bulking at that point. You hadn't started cutting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, you seem
Well,
hesitant about that. Yeah.
I say I seem hesitant because um the term, I don't love the term bulking, really, just because of how it's used in more like male gym culture. When I hear a lot of men being like, "Oh yeah, I'm bulking," or "I'm doing a dirty bulk," and they're eating Chick-fil-A and they're eating like really fatty foods, a lot of peanut butter to just, get in those calories. That's not what I was doing. I mean, I was still tracking my macros meticulously, which is something I've done for 3 years now with the guidance of my coach. And we were increasing my macros. I mean, I got up to 500 grams of carbs a day. That was awesome. That was so fun. I was eating 500 grams of carbs, 75 grams of fat, and 160 grams of protein a day, which is over 3,000 calories. And maintaining weight, though. That's the thing. I wasn't putting on a ton of weight because the goal wasn't to put on body fat. You still want to like you want to be feeding your muscle that you currently have, and you want to be able to feed or fuel protein muscle synthesis for building new muscle. But if you're eating in an extreme caloric excess, then you're putting on body fat, which is just creating a more difficult cut later on.
So hold on, you weren't trying to gain weight. So you were trying to what they call recomp.
Yeah.
So you were trying to lose fat while putting on muscle and not gain any extra weight on the
Well,
scale.
the weight wasn't a goal at all. It wasn't like, "Oh, let's not try to put on weight." It's just that I wasn't not trying to put on weight. Does that make sense? It was more like we were using
Sure.
the scale as a tool to see how my body was metabolizing food. So an example would be before I started cutting, I was about 146 pounds, 145 pounds. And
So you were eating 1.2 grams of protein or so a day
per pound of body weight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I meant.
At the time. I mean, I've been at 160 grams of protein every day for a very long time.
So you don't change it based on your fluctuations in body weight?
No,
Okay.
no. That really always stays the same, and partly because I have so much muscle mass compared to a normal person. Like a normal person doesn't need that much protein because you don't, you
Right.
know, this is not normal, which is why I do it. But what was I saying? Oh gosh.
I totally cut you
No,
off.
it's totally fine.
No, I cut you off. This isn't your cut ruining you with brain fog.
No, it's okay.
You gave me your macro numbers, and you were talking about letting the scale guide you,
Right.
but not trying to not gain weight.
Yeah. So I was at 145 pounds, and let's say, so I weigh myself every morning, and I track that weight in an Excel sheet along with my macros, my fiber intake, and my water intake. And what I do is my body wakes up in the morning at 7 a.m. If it doesn't, that would be really impressive because I have to go to the bathroom like as soon as I wake up. I have to poop. Like my body is like clockwork, which I'm very thankful for. But that's the first thing I do in the morning. And then as soon as I wash my hands, I step on the scale. And we utilize that as a tool. So if I see that my weight is dropping significantly all of a sudden, then I'm not eating enough to fuel my workouts, and I'm not eating enough to fuel muscle protein synthesis. But if my weight stays the same or maybe even increases a little, that's good. You know, that means that we're going down the right path during that time of training. If the scale increases drastically over a few days, then we know that I'm eating in too much of a caloric excess. So my body's then putting on body fat that I'm going to have to shed later because it's not using it to fuel my workouts or my day-to-day activities. It's not using those calories for muscle protein synthesis, and it's not using those calories for recovery.
Okay. And so how does your training in this period, when you're preparing for prep, when you're preparing to prepare,
Yeah.
how does it differ from your training when you were actually beginning to peel off the extra body fat for the show?
So I was still doing a lot of compound lifts, and I was doing no cardio. It was awesome. I was squatting heavy. I was deadlifting heavy. And there were still accessory movements, but it wasn't the majority of my training. And then once we started my prep, that's when my programming became a lot less compound movements, a lot fewer compound lifts, more localized lifts, accessory movements. And we started with only 20 minutes of cardio, like 4 days a week. And I will say that my experience going into bodybuilding is, again, not normal because I have learned through this process that my superpower is my metabolism. which is partly genetic. My dad was a competitive Nordic skier, and he has an incredible metabolism. So thank you, Edward, for that. I really appreciate it.
If only we all had an Edward.
I know. But also part of it is because I had never dieted before. I had never restricted before. So my metabolism was going. I was eating over 3,000 calories a day, and it was burning through it. So as soon as we dropped it just a little bit, the weight came off really fast. So in 14 weeks, I lost 21, 22 pounds. And I never went below, I think the lowest calorie count I got to prepping for my first show was like 1,900 calories. And that was towards the very, very end. Did I ever dip below 2,000 calories a day?
Right. That's pretty amazing, especially because a lot of people probably with a lot of women with your body weight, if they eat that much, they're going to gain weight.
Exactly. And I didn't realize how big a deal that was until my coach, as well as the owner of the team that I'm on, Bare Aesthetics, he was like, wait, this isn't normal. Like they'd never dieted down a woman that much with that high of calories.
Yeah, that really is a superpower. That's
I know.
Awesome.
Like when people ask you what superpower you would have if you could have a superpower, metabolism, it's pretty great. But I'm now eating I think 1,780 calories a day because I'm
so
prepping for my next
why?
show, because part of it is because your metabolism slows down. So the reason why my metabolism is my superpower is because I had never dieted before. So I was able to go from 145 pounds to 125 pounds, lowering my calories from 3,000 calories to 2,000 calories over time. But let's say you have somebody who's starting at 145 pounds, but they're only eating 2,000 calories a day anyways. They're going to have to go down to like 900 calories a day because your metabolism, you have to feed it, So a lot of times I work with clients who they come to me and they're like, Abigail, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm eating 1,000 calories a day. I'm on the Stairmaster for 40 minutes a day and I'm not losing weight. And you can't tell them to eat less. You can't say, oh, you have to eat less than 1,000 calories a day, because then they're not going to have energy to live. You're not going to have energy to fuel your body's natural processes. What you have to do is called a reverse. So you slowly increase calories to rev up that metabolism. And then once you do that, then you can decrease. So
did you have to go down to 1,780 because you didn't have enough time to reverse after the first show?
Yes. And also because the weekend after my first show, I had my in-person college commencement ceremony. So I graduated college in 2020. Great timing. So we didn't have our in-person commencement ceremony. And this year we had that. And for me, that was a huge deal. I got to see the people that I was kind of like ripped away from almost. And Pitzer, my college experience, was incredible. And I loved Pitzer. I love Pitzer. The people there are just so special. And it was one of the first places where I felt like I could really be myself. And I felt like a valued member of the community. So me and my coach knew going into that weekend that it was a celebratory weekend. You know, I hadn't had a drink in since December. So, you know, I wanted to drink. I wanted to party with my friends from college. I wanted to eat food and celebrate. And that's what I did. And the result was I gained 10 pounds in one weekend. Because part of that was because I had been restricting for so long that I was like, oh my God, I need to eat everything. So
was it a binge, or did you feel like you were in control?
Was it a binge? It was a binge, and
I
it
mean, if you
wasn't a
don't have
binge.
if you didn't have like a negative reaction to it
Yeah.
emotionally and you're totally okay with it, then it's probably not a binge.
I wouldn't call it a binge because I didn't feel out of control. I was 100% in control and making those decisions. I just didn't care about the repercussions of those decisions at the time. It wasn't like, oh my God, I need to stop, but I can't stop. It was like, I should probably stop, but I don't want to. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you put on a lot of fat in that weekend because you're not going to synthesize 10 pounds of muscle. I mean, a lot of it's probably glycogen and
A
water,
lot of it
but
was
still.
bloating. It took me like 3 weeks to be not bloated after that. But also, I did have Taco Bell for the first time in my life. And that
I haven't had Taco Bell
do
yet.
not
Isn't that
it was
crazy?
a really
It's on
bad
my list.
idea. It was a really bad idea. It was 3 a.m. and I was with one of my best friends, and it was the only place open, and we were drunk, and we're eating our Taco Bell chalupa or whatever. Oh, or no, a Crunch Supreme. I don't know. And I look at her and she looks at me and she goes, "We're going to feel really bad in about 20 minutes." And you know what happened? We ate that at 2 a.m. At 4 a.m., I woke up and I had explosive diarrhea. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to die. So,
Well, I'll plan accordingly when I go to
yeah,
Taco
just
Bell.
don't do it before you're going to get on a flight.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on that.
Yeah.
Back to the bodybuilding for a
Mm-hmm.
second. Leaving the explosive diarrhea for the moment.
Sorry, part of bodybuilding is like I'm very open about my bodily functions.
No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. The point of cardio when you're bodybuilding or when you're cutting. Now, is that so you weren't doing any cardio at all when you're bulking? And then but then you started doing it. You said you started maybe with 20 minutes 4 times a week. And is the point of that just it's sort of like a trade-off, like either you can burn calories through cardio or you can cut more food,
100%.
and there comes a point where you just want to just move a little bit but get to eat a bit more.
100%. Yeah. Because there are 2 ways to get into a caloric deficit. One is eat less. 2, burn more calories. How do you burn more calories? Cardio. Yeah, but the highest my cardio has ever gone is what I'm doing right now, which is an hour of cardio, 60 minutes of cardio, 5 days a week. So, it's not too bad. I currently do 40 minutes on the incline treadmill walk, but that's like fast incline treadmill. And then I do 20 minutes on the Stairmaster. And for my first show, I was doing pretty much all of my cardio on the Stairmaster, but I've found that it's a lot harder for my body to recover from the Stairmaster. So, you know, I love
in the glutes mainly.
Yeah, in the glutes,
and the hamstrings.
and I get inflammation there. And if I'm getting inflammation there, you can't see the glute ham tie as much as you want to. And that's like one thing that I'm really trying to be able to show off this coming show. So by doing something that's a little less hard on my body, we're trying to reduce inflammation and make sure that I'm fully recovered for my next day's workout.
Okay. So I think the last question I have for today is about the cut, and particularly what you're eating when you're eating like 1,800 calories in a day, and how you're making the most out of that number to keep yourself sane in these trying times of having really low body fat.
So a lot of people think that when you're cutting, you're eating rice, potatoes, broccoli, and turkey and chicken breast. Now, don't get me wrong. I eat a lot of chicken breast and turkey, and I eat a lot of sweet potatoes. My body loves sweet potatoes. But my macronutrients right now, I'm eating, oh gosh, I'm going to have to check my app because I honestly, I put my numbers in there and I don't even really think about them until they're zeroed out. So right now I'm eating 210 grams of carbs a day, 35 grams of fat, and 160 grams of protein. So what I eat is a lot of vegetables. I've actually never had so many vegetables in my life. And that's something positive that has come out of this prep. I used to eat just like, well, I'm also gluten-free, not by choice. I don't know who would ever do that by choice. I've found that my body doesn't process wheat that's processed in the US very well. So I try to stay away from gluten in everything for the most part, including beer, which makes me sad because I do love beer when I am drinking, which I'm obviously not right now. But for breakfast, every morning I have the same breakfast, and every morning I look forward to it. I have sweet potatoes. Right now I'm having between 10 and 12 ounces, 12 raw sweet potatoes, and then I cook them in the air fryer with no oil or anything. 2 to 3 whole eggs, 3.
Interesting. You can do the air fryer with no oil. I've never tried that.
Yeah. I mean, they don't get crispy. Huh. They don't get like super crispy, but they get cooked, and I like them.
Okay.
And then I do like 2 to 3 ounces of spinach, 100 grams of cherry tomatoes, and
I'm taking note of that air fryer tip because that sounds really good.
I cook everything in the air fryer with no oil.
Without oil?
Huh. Yeah. I don't even use the spray. I mean, you can use like the oil spray, but I don't need to with them. And that's breakfast. So I still have things like whole eggs. My pre-workout meal, I don't like the term snack. I call really everything a meal. I'll either have like a rice cake or two and some chicken breast, or a bunch of carrots and chicken breast. My post-workout meal is always the same. It's rice, cauliflower rice, zucchini, tomatoes, chicken, and then I do a little bit of balsamic vinegar. So it's like a Mediterranean bowl almost. I eat a lot of cabbage, which I
eat a lot of sauerkraut and kimchi, but not raw or not raw cabbage.
Well, I mean, I cook it. I do cook it. Okay. I like steam it in the pan, and then I'll put like rice noodles and more chicken breast, a lot of broccoli, and then some soy sauce, rice vinegar, maybe some miso paste, and a little bit of peanut butter powder. So it's like, it's not fat free, but it's super low fat, but you get that peanutty taste. And then for dinner, oh my gosh, I've been making this thing that's amazing. It's my pineapple shrimp unfried rice, because
that sounds awesome.
It's so good.
Pineapple and shrimp.
It's so good. So I use fresh pineapple, shrimp, which is a lean protein source.
So lean. It's like perfect.
I know, exactly. A little bit of real rice right now because my carbs are so low. I have a lot of cauliflower rice, a lot of broccoli, veggies, just to give me that volume. And then what do I put in there? So, well, obviously pineapple. What else do I put in there? Some rice vinegar, a little bit of soy sauce, and some onions, and it's delicious. It's so good.
So what is cauliflower rice? I've never had it.
It's just riced cauliflower. It's literally like raw cauliflower that's cut up like super, super small. And it doesn't taste like rice at all. The first time I had cauliflower rice, I was like, this doesn't taste like rice. It tastes like cauliflower. And that's because it's literally just cauliflower that has been riced.
But it's like a good way to get bulk.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of high volume foods. And I meal prep, but not really anymore. When I was in college, I would put together like actual meals in Tupperware containers. It would be like, this is my pasta with chicken and sauce and vegetables, and this whole container has X number of calories and my X number of macronutrients per container. But what I've found is better for me personally is instead in my fridge, I have a giant bowl of cooked rice, a giant bowl of cooked broccoli, a Tupperware of cooked chicken breasts. Sometimes I have chicken thighs, beans, all that stuff. And then I can take what I need from whichever container in order to make a meal. Add, if I want it to be a Mexican bowl, I'll add 2 tablespoons of salsa, a little bit of avocado. There you go. It's a Mexican bowl. I want a Mediterranean bowl. Instead, I'll add a little bit of balsamic vinegar. If I have the macros to do it, I'll add a little bit of goat cheese. There you go. It's very similar ingredients, but I'm getting a different flavor profile, so I don't go crazy.
And do you have anything you would label a diet hack that you use? So, I mean, for me, just hearing that you don't need olive oil in the air fryer is a big one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's one. It's funny because when I first started my cut, I went on Reddit and I asked the same question in the bodybuilding subreddit because, I'm not really a big Reddit person, but I dipped my toe in for the law school admissions Reddit. And then I really shouldn't have done that because it just created a lot more anxiety when people were hearing back from schools and I wasn't. But I had asked that, and a lot of people were just like diet soda and mint gum. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's disgusting. And
you don't like diet soda?
Well, now I do.
I like those water flavor enhancers.
Yeah. So
I use
those now. But I try to limit it to like one a day, even though they're sweetened. The one that I use is sweetened with stevia because I'm so close to my show. We limit artificial sweeteners just because for some people they cause more water retention. But stevia isn't an artificial sweetener and it doesn't have that impact. So a lot of stevia, honestly, in my coffee. I have a lot of stevia. Oh, this is a diet hack for coffee. If you like sweet coffee, stevia and cinnamon powder. It's like Christmas in a cup. Is it as satisfying as your, mochaccino with oat milk? No, but it'll get you through the day.
Okay. Well, this has been really fun. Thank you for agreeing to come on to Robinson's nascent podcast that hasn't published any episodes yet.
Of course. I mean, hey, I love talking about this stuff, and everybody I know is tired of hearing about it. And also it was nice for me for reflective purposes because I'm so close to my next show and I don't know when my next show after that will be. So it's nice to kind of take time to reflect on my journey, and hopefully if this does get published, my journey resonates with somebody and hopefully gives them a little bit of guidance or makes them feel like they're not 100% alone if they're feeling insecure in their body or as if they don't have ownership of it because of a traumatic experience, something like that. So I'm more than happy to be a guest.
Great. And I know that there's also so much more to go into regarding training and mental health. So perhaps somewhere down the road
We'll do another
we'll do
one.
a round two.
I can always talk for longer.